In the next One Piece, we discover Portgas D. Rouge's past as a Precure lead, and Roger was, one of the enemy generals, I guess?
That's hot.
All of your treasure belongs to me! Come out, Pirate Hadoken! Or whatever their monsters are called.
Oh man, why aren't the Tropical Rouge bad guys pirate themed?
God, why aren't they?
Let's throw our hands in the air as we soar through the sky.
Yatta!
We'll catch the sun with your hand in mine, and if we work as a team, everything will be fine.
Yeah!
Oh, it's Cure of the What Now?
Let's henshin and start the show!
Hello, fellow daycare practice teachers, or perhaps daycare practice students, and welcome to Cure of the What Now, the only show where we know it's better to just let Manatsu roll around in the dirt while the rest of us do all the serious adulting. My name is Kat, I'm the ghost of the show, and I apparently have never had a book read out loud to me in my life, and I have no idea what these children mean when they demand that I read it with feeling.
You sound a little robotic there, just the tiniest bit, so perhaps that's something that you can overcome as you learn to Tropica Shine.
Oh, how delicious.
All right, and I'm your co-host Joel, and also I am a goo creature that was formerly a caterpillar, but I'm currently in the process of melting so I can reform into a butterfly.
Now, for those of you who don't know, I have to explain. When caterpillars go into their chrysalis, they don't just grow butterfly parts, they actually melt into goo and then reform into the butterfly, and what was their anus becomes their mouth, and so that's what Joel is referencing here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bugs are cool.
Bugs are super neat. Can we just say, I want to give thanks and praise to Mermaid Monopoly Monday.
Once more?
I think that this is going to go on for quite some time because that just rattles in my head rent-free all the time.
That's fair, and I do explicitly ask you to play it quite often. I do have an announcement this week, shockingly. I knew that there was the crossover movie between Healing Good and Yes Precure 5. I somehow did not know or hear that there was a Tropical Rouge short at the beginning of it, and so one of our friends in the Discord, that welder guy, reminded us, hey, there's this short. We can't watch it yet because our sources have not made it available, but as soon as it is available, we will watch it, and then we will, touch on it briefly in one of these episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we forgot to mention last episode, but we got a very special package delivered from Japan recently. So, Kat, how excited are you about this?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is all written in Japanese, so I have no idea. It's a specific... Well, no, because I thought that maybe there would be a brand name that would be more...
It's like the Fluffy Friends, or whatever they're called.
I think that's what it is. It's plushies, and we have one of each of the girls. So we have Laura, Manatsu, Asuka, Minori, and Sango.
I'm so happy. They're so cute. I'm currently on the hunt for shelving for our podcasting studio so that I can put them up on display. Shockingly... shelves are just vanishingly rare in our city, so I'll figure it out someday.
Absolutely. We were thinking that we did that one very brief Precure theater, and every once in a while I try to come up with another funny idea, but I don't want them to all be the same joke, just, some kind of violence is introduced to Precure that's incongruent with the tones. But if we come up with another one that's really good, I think we might use them to shoot a little video to go along with the joke, and maybe that'll be something exclusive to YouTube. So...
Absolutely. Now, Joel, it looks like you wrote us a lead-in discussion this week.
Yes, absolutely. A couple of weeks ago, I got several ideas for lead-in discussions, and I've kind of stopped trying to come up with new ones for a little while, so I'm so glad we haven't hit the bottom of the barrel yet. So... if the Tropical Club, including Laura, of course, went to a convention, what kind of characters do you think they're cosplaying as?
Okay, so I don't know a lot about Gundam.
Okay.
But imagine Manatsu cosplaying as a Gundam.
Okay.
Not a character from Gundam.
She actually builds the robot suit kind of a thing.
Yeah, she's got like the cardboard box armor going on.
I really like that. Because Manatsu is so exuberant for life, and because she's so excited for everything, I could really see her dressing up as almost anything. Like, I could see her being like, Detective Tropica Shine, I'm Sherlock Holmes. Or she could be like, yeah, Bright Colors Tropica Shine, I'm the Pink Ranger. Or she could be literally any character, and it wouldn't feel incongruous to me.
Now imagine Minori cosplaying a bug catcher from Pokemon.
Okay, I think that would work out really well. She kind of falls into the same character archetypes a little bit as Nino from the Quintessential Quintuplets, so I could see her dressing as like a shogun or something like that, possibly.
Oh, you mean Miku.
Ah, shoot! Yes, I got them mixed up. My bad. Yes, I could... They're both kind of quiet. They're both kind of, they don't really show as many emotions as other people, so I could see them both being into historical kind of things. The other really obvious choice is that Minori could dress up as the Little Mermaid, since that seems to be one of her favorite stories or that sort of thing. So I think she would probably dress more as, like, Disney or fairy tale characters rather than video games or manga or anything like that. Sango, I think, could actually make a very lovely Princess Peach, perhaps. One of the characters who's kind of classically beautiful but doesn't have a whole lot of personality, I would say. And so I think that would fit her really well.
What are you out here saying about Pete's girl Sango?
Pete's girl?
Yeah. The mascot of the podcast, Triceratops, Pete.
You said Pete, you didn't say Pete the Triceratops. I got a little confused.
I thought that he's a valued member of this team. How could you forget him like this? How could you snub him?
Look, I'm not saying that Sango doesn't have a character. I just think that there's outgoing, like, in-your-face, bombastic characters, and then there's kind of, like, the more quiet, reserved characters, and to me, Sango and Princess Peach fit that role, whereas, like, I don't know, Bayonetta, I guess, to take the opposite extreme, is very kind of more in-your-face, personality-wise.
Absolutely. Now, cosplay is a combination of the words costume and roleplay, so it's usually a specific character, so I don't really think Lolita fashion counts as cosplaying, because it's just the costume part, there's no roleplay part, but I absolutely could see Sango dressing in, you know, all Lolita.
Okay.
Either a pastel Lolita or a baby doll Lolita. I couldn't see her being a gothic Lolita person.
Now, I'm not familiar with the difference between those first two, between pastel and baby doll, is that what you said? But yeah. I could see her, I assume that's more lighter colors rather than, like, the blacks and whites or whatever. I could see her potentially, God, I had something. She could dress up as, like, one of the maid characters from many different manga that exist. You know, she could dress up as, like, Rem or Ram from ReZero is a character that's coming to mind.
Would she be sweet smile sister sadistic? We've never seen that show, to be clear.
We just know that it exists as a meme. And Asuka, I mean, it seems kind of obvious. I think that she would probably dress up as one of the female sports characters from, like, a sports manga or sports TV show or something like that, you know? So I could see her being, like, one of the characters from the new Prince of Tennis, which I have not read, or I could see her dressing up as, like, a boxer or something, but I don't really know any specific characters that she would roleplay as, but I think that's kind of her genre that would make the most sense.
Okay, I could see that. What about Laura? See, I feel like Laura might be the type to be like, this is stupid. But she could also get really into it. It's hard to gauge.
Laura seems to like attention to some degree or another, so I'm sure that she would be willing to put in a lot of effort into it in order to try to, like, express herself. But I think that she would I think she'd cosplay herself. I think she'd cosplay the Mermaid Queen, and she'd just, like, go all out, and she'd be like, yes, everyone bow to me, and everyone will be like, oh, she's really in character, who is this? And she's like, it's my OC Laura.
Imagine her cosplaying one of the Go Princess girls. Imagine her cosplaying Haruka.
Oh my gosh. Or Cure Mermaid. That would be pretty funny.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Oh!
Here's a question for you.
Yeah?
About the Go Princess girls, by the way. Is it odd to you that her goal was to be the ultimate princess and not queen? Like, what's the distinction between queen and princess?
Well, now, this is kind of cheating. I think maybe you're trying to lead me, because in My Little Pony, they made Celestia princess and not queen because there's a certain association in fairy tales with, like, the evil queen or the power-hungry queen or whatever, but princesses are, like, pure and good and soft and all that stuff. So I think she wanted to become a princess because there's more fairy tales about the noble princess than there are about someone who is the fair and just ruler.
Okay, that's fair. Plus, princess, you kind of get all the benefits of being queen, like, visibility-wise, but you don't have to actually be responsible for anything. Okay. And I see the appeal in that.
I think Haruka would disagree. I think that her definition of a princess does things, but I think you're right that there's a certain level of, like, I don't need to do things as a princess that I would need to do as a queen. What about Manatsu dressing up as Sailor Moon.
Oh my goodness.
I think that would be pretty good.
What about Manatsu dressing up as a Power Ranger?
Is she a Power Ranger girl? Or no, she's all about that teamwork. Because I was about to say she could be a Kamen Rider as well. Asuka dresses up as a Kamen Rider because they don't typically have as strong of a focus on teamwork, whereas Manatsu is
Oh my god. Asuka dresses up as the OG Kamen Rider, like the first Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider Ichigo, I think, was his name.
Maybe. I think the first two were just Ichi and Ni, but I could be wrong. I have not seen that, and it's been weeks since I had this information given to me, and so it just slipped out my brain.
Yep. We have a friend who will definitely add us and explain, so it's all good. But yeah, that's kind of all my thoughts on the cosplay question. I think that was a fun...
Yeah, I think that's really neat. So, we need to do a succinct summary. Basically, there is a preschool teacher who likes to have other students practice being daycare teachers, daycare supervisors if they want to be. And so
yeah, it's like a job shadowing kind of thing. She reaches out to middle and high schools and is like, come be a preschool teacher for a day and see if you like it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a chance to kind of see if it might be your thing. So it's the Tropical Club hanging out with a bunch of preschoolers. This episode mostly highlights how great Sango and Laura are. There's a couple of moments with the other girls, but they're not as central. There is two preschoolers that we get introduced to, Wataru and Ruri. Wataru is a boy and Ruri is a girl, and they are both into bugs. Wataru seems to not necessarily care about hanging out with other people. He likes to be on his own. He reads books about bugs. Laura's like, that's super cool. Ruri is a little bit more social, but she also likes bugs but doesn't really like to talk about it. And so there's a little bit of like, oh, these two should hang out. And it kind of feels like shipping, but also their preschoolers are probably just like, hey, these two could be friends. Elda shows up, and they fight the monster, and the two preschoolers find out about what Precure are, but then the Precure team are just like, shh, keep this a secret, and that's basically it.
Yeah, that was a really good succinct summary. Did you like this episode?
I think that there were a lot of cute moments in it, but as I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, I'm getting real tired of there not being any plot happening. Like, Laura ran away from I don't know if you'd call it a town or a country or a city or what, like what size was the population, but she ran away from a people that was destroyed, basically, the kids-friendly version of being wiped out, in order to find people who could help her. She found these four girls, and now she's just going to school and wearing different skirts, and I get that the show probably wants to be more episodic in case more complications come up because of what happened with Healing Good, had to cut some episodes and there were delays and stuff. But I just feel like maybe there should be something they're working towards rather than just hanging out.
Yeah, at some point, Laura should be like, okay, I got all the Precure. That was step 1 on my 47-point plan on how to become queen. Now we gotta take the Precure to the ocean.
Yeah, step 2 is obviously create a sense of scarcity, because nobody wants to buy seashells due to the supplies of law and demand.
This is not a Mermaid Monopoly Monday episode. This is a episode 14 of Tropical Rouge Precure episode.
No, episode 14 of Cure of the What Now? Because, I mean, we talk about Futari Wa and that other one, Kira Kira Precure a la mode. Longest episode title, or title series.
Are you going to complain about that every time?
Every single time,
Every single time. Interesting. Okay. I liked this episode a lot.
Yeah.
So far, and I get where you're coming from with the plot. I do think that Laura seems to have kind of just forgotten about her country. And Laura, babe, you want to be queen of this country, you should probably care about it. At the same time, her arc seems to be learning to be less selfish and more selfless, and also kind of using her skills as a leader correctly. And so it kind of makes sense that that's not at the forefront of her mind, because she found this other thing to occupy her time, and there's probably going to be a moment where she goes, ah, heck, I probably should have been thinking about that a little bit more.
Okay.
The thing I liked about this episode is it really highlighted Laura as a leader. And we got a little bit of that last episode as well, with the podcast/school broadcast kind of being a hot mess until she stepped in and kind of got it on track. But here, she not only knows how to work with children and how to lead them, she also knows how to appreciate people's specific gifts and not push them into things. This child, Wataru, when she starts talking to him and is praising that he has a dream that he's working toward, he's kind of taken aback and he goes, "You're not going to tell me I should be playing with other kids? You're not going to try to make me interact with anyone?" And she's like, "No, you like bugs. Do your bug thing, man." And I think that's very cool. I like seeing her journey toward becoming queen. I feel like this person could be a good ruler someday.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was a beautiful moment. I liked Sango noticing that there was a child kind of on his own and trying to, like, you know, hang out with him and get him out of a shell. But like you said, you kind of see two different leadership styles between Sango trying to, like, hey, do you want to do this thing that I expect everyone wants to do? And Laura being like, no, it's cool to be on your own. Shout out to Asuka. She has a couple of moments when they're told that they're going to go be temporary daycare preschool supervisors. She kind of goes, "Oh, it's kids. I hope it turns out all right." And, like, I don't know, maybe it was just the translation choice, but it made me feel like she has some kind of, like, sordid past with children. Like, every time I walk into a room with a child, someone dies.
Well, and it's funny, too, because I felt like we got confirmation that she's the youngest in her family in this episode. Yeah. There's a moment where the kids are, like, pretending that she's the baby, and they're feeding her fake baby food. And she goes, "When I was little, I just played with my brother's toys, and so I never learned how to play with toys like this." And so I assume that means older brother.
Right, yeah, absolutely. But no, she clearly is a little bit out of her element. She still has a little bit of growth to do. And speaking of growth, you already alluded to this with your intro, but Minori, she really likes the idea of reading, and she picked a picture book that they will like, but she's not very good at emoting. And at first I thought the joke was just going to be that she hasn't ever read out loud before, but she has a little bit of, like, a blush when she kind of skips over it when she realizes that she's not doing it well enough. So maybe that's going to be something that factors into future growth. Maybe she'll try to be a little bit more outgoing as Minori rather than letting Kira Papaya take the lead, I guess.
Absolutely. I would love to see her kick someone as Minori.
Yeah, that's a pretty extreme example, but yeah, I like it. I like it. We've come here to shut down the Tropical Club. How dare you, sparkling fruits! Kick!
Now, the villain didn't play a huge role in this episode. We got Elda again, and I feel bad for Elda.
I really
honestly.
do.
Like, she just seems like she needs friends and people to play with. And I feel like, kind of like with Changi Ray, if Manatsu ate his food and was like, "This is delicious, you're an incredible chef," I could see her engaging Elda in play and being like, "Let's play tag, you're it." And she wouldn't have any reason to be evil. And so it hurts my heart that this little shrimp child doesn't have anyone her age to play with and doesn't seem to know how to interact with people in an appropriate way. She only knows how to throw tantrums and make monsters.
Yeah, well, and I would say her definition of play seems to be related to creating monsters. So if she doesn't get an arc and she doesn't become good, I'd be frustrated because I think that that's a better story than just she's evil because. But if she didn't get a redemption arc, I would probably say, well, I guess they kind of had that plan from the start. But I agree, yeah, she could definitely use some friends and some positive whatever, and I just kind of wish that the girls would stop just destroying the monster and being like, all right, that's it. I wish they'd try to talk with the
Try to engage the generals a little bit.
I will say we did get information from the butler. Apparently the butler doesn't know how to play either, which is, fine. But at the same time, he seemed to legitimately, like, be confused when she's like, "We pretend to eat." And he's like, "What's pretend?" So I don't know, maybe the butler has also never had friends exactly either, and maybe he needs someone to reach out to.
There's something going on with that butler, man. It's always the butler.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's a question for you. Changi Ray, Elda, they both have sort of sympathetic things going on.
Yeah.
What's going on with Dr. New Mary?
She was conducting experiments, and they were found to be unethical, so they revoked her medical license. She was driven out of the country, and now she has to do illegal black market medical stuff in order to save up enough money to complete her research.
See, now there's nothing sympathetic about that. What I was trying to ask was, do you think she also if she lets go of her selfishness and learns to embrace doing the most important thing right now, do you think she has something that the Precure could influence? Or do you think she really is just there?
Maybe, like Chong-Yurei, she wants to be rewarded for her work, so maybe if she actually tended to sick patients and learned to have better bedside manner, and they thanked her, maybe she'd be like, oh, this actually feels really nice. I was able to help someone's life. At the same time, I do agree that the way she's depicted, she doesn't as easily have as many emotions that you could point to and be like, she needs a hug. She seems really, like, mellow or bland or, like...
She seems like she's content with where she is.
Apathetic is the word I'm looking for. It almost feels like she doesn't really want to do anything, and she does it out of a sense of, like, boredom. And so maybe she also needs a friend, but... yeah, she seems most content, I would agree.
Absolutely. We did watch both Kira Kira and Futari Wa this week.
Yes.
Which one would you like to talk about first?
Let's talk about Kira Kira.
Okay.
So, originally my plan was watch an episode of Kira Kira for every episode of Tropical Rouge that we watch. Well, guess what? I really like Kira Kira. So, I ended up watching a couple of extra episodes past where I needed to watch, and I'm all caught up now. And it's very interesting. I've been introduced to the hot transfer student who seems to be going after each of the Precure one at a time in order to try to figure out how to make the most powerful Kira Kiraru. And I just love that Yukari / Kira Macaron is completely on to him. Every time in his human form where he says something that's like deceptively nice but secretly trying to drive a wedge into the team, she's in the background going, Now, I've had it spoiled for me during our previous bonus episode what that was about. However, it's still interesting to see that they give you ample clues before it happens. It's not just out of nowhere she decides to do something about it.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Yukari is a really interesting character to me, and I'm really looking forward to you getting into her a little bit more. I also love Giulio. I've made no secret of the fact that I think the villains, especially him, in Kira Kira are the strongest villains I've seen in Precure so far, and I love that he does stuff.
Yes.
More of that. For a while, Kira Kira was not a Monster of the Week show.
Absolutely.
Because instead it was a Giulio of the Week.
Well, and he got different weapons and he had different plots and stuff, but in the end, it's all in service to his goal of getting stronger. You kind of got that with Kobraja from Heartcatch, but not really. He'd occasionally show up and be like, I have a new technique, but there wasn't really anything about his strategy that changed. It was just, I'm going to use this new technique, which is an even bigger punch than last time. But more of that, please. Yeah, I'd love that. I think Healing Good tried a little bit, too, with the way that their generals were experimenting with the different Biogens, but I just don't quite feel it the same way that I feel with the Kira Kira folks.
For sure. This week's Futari Wa episode was pretty funny. It was about their friends are pretending to be Precure.
Yes.
And then, like, surprise, if you pretend to be a superhero, the superhero's enemies are going to find you and probably do some bad stuff. And then it ended with them being like, we won't pretend to be Precure anymore, and then immediately doing that.
Yeah, it was kind of strange because we talked a little bit about this off mic, but it seems like the point of the episode was if you pretend to be superheroes, the actual bad guys who can do mind control and stuff might make you literally walk off a building, which, by the way, very dark for Precure, like, oof. But they end up realizing they're in danger and they promise not to do it, and then they go back to doing it anyways. And I get it. It's hard if you really like something and you promise not to do it. There's a lot of people who go back to doing it anyways. That's how addiction works. That's how a lot of people are with, like, video games or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like the real danger has not been abated, and I don't know if this is going to factor into later episodes, and if it doesn't, I'd be a little frustrated, because you'd think that they're creating an obvious weakness for the bad guys to exploit.
For sure, absolutely. I do think that it was a good episode to show kind of how Nagisa and Honoka are affecting their city, like
yes.
how them being Precure is influencing the people around them. So that's kind of cool. But that's about it. That's the extent of my thoughts on Futari Wa. It still remains a very episodic show. Does it bother you that Futari Wa is episodic more than, like, the Tropical Rouge episodic, or is it about the same?
Well, see, the thing is that in Futari Wa, you still have the Prism Stones. They still are, like, asking themselves questions like, are more bad guys going to show up? Are we going to have to do this forever? Is my brother safe? And in Tropical Rouge, they don't even seem to be asking those questions at all, even if they're rhetorical in Futari Wa. So I'd say Tropical Rouge is even more episodic. And yeah, it does bother me more in Tropical Rouge because they don't even have, like, a find the rainbow pearl or whatever.
There's not even a MacGuffin. Okay. I do have one more quick note, and we're not going to make this part of our weekly discussion. I just want to throw it out there. We finally started watching Fresh.
Fresh is good.
And I love it. I love Fresh Precure so much. I'll probably summarize my thoughts when we eventually finish it. Like I said, we're not going to talk about it every week. But.
Yeah, I don't know how regularly we're going to watch it. We're not going to make it part of our plate of Precure that we eat every day. We have the broccoli, that's the Futari Wa. We have the main course, that's the Tropical Rouge. And Kira Kira is obviously the dessert.
Delicious mashed potatoes. Dessert. It's dessert.
It's dessert,
it's
yeah.
Dessert. It's dessert. Why am I like this?
Delicious tart with caramel drizzle.
Oh, tart.
Yeah.
Like Fresh Precure.
Yeah, like the weasel.
I love him. He is a ferret.
Okay.
Which is a type of weasel.
A weasel and ferret are different in the same way that an alligator and a crocodile is different, right? Something like that? Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. They're both mustelids.
Excellent. So, I think we're good. I think it's time to move on to Tweets in a Bottle. Like you said earlier, we did get some comments on Tropical Rouge in the Discord from James, a.k.a. That Welder Guy on Twitter.
We keep saying That Welder Guy. I think his actual is that one, like the number one welder guy.
Right, yeah. If we put the link to his Twitter profile in the episode description, it will be the correct one.
There we go.
And you can click on that. But there was a funny joke where kururun showed up in the preschool and was mistaken for a plushie. And so all the kids were like poking it. And at one point, kururun goes, kururun, because that's what kururun does. He's a Pokemon. And James said, make a talking kururun plushie, you cowards. And you know what? The fact that I have a Manatsu, Minori, Sango, Asuka, and Laura plushie collection, I'm still missing one. I'm still missing one of the best fairies that has ever existed.
Do we perhaps have a problem? Yes. Should people enable our problem? Also, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Support us on Patreon so that we can get plushies, so that we can create direct-to-YouTube videos with Minori having a gun that shoots fruits, or whatever we end up deciding to do.
Laura is hanging off the edge of a cliff with one hand. Manatsu, help me! Manatsu leans down to grab Laura's hand. Long live the queen, she whispers, and hurls her off the cliff.
Oh my goodness. And then I do also have to point out that James also really liked Asuka's face when she was put in like the little bib and she was doing like the fake tea time with the girls, and he captioned it with, "What the heck is this?" Yeah, I think it's interesting that Asuka's not really good with children, and I think that kind of goes more into her lone wolf situation. I'm hoping we get an episode that explicitly kind of goes into what she's dealing with, you know?
For sure.
I do also want to point out one last thing. At the end of this episode, Sango says that Laura would make a good teacher, and Laura kind of blushes, and she goes, well, actually, I'm going to be a queen. Now, at the beginning of the series, Laura wanted to be queen more than anything in the world, and there's many different ways a story like that can play out with a character who wants to be something at the very beginning. The story can be about them achieving their dream, a la Haruka from Go Princess. She wanted to be a princess and she ended up being a princess by the end, kind of. Not an official title or anything, but she lived up to the ideals of being a princess. But you can also have stories where a character thinks that they really, really want something, such as a character with a magical power who wants to fit in with society and doesn't want their magical power, but by the end of the season or series, maybe they realize that it's cool to have this magic power and they see this as like a gift or something. So I wonder if perhaps Laura might not become the queen, and maybe being more of like a teacher or a tutor or something is more what she's going to end up being useful for. But it could also be both. This is a kid's show where she could probably become queen, and the queen's duty is to educate everyone, and so she'll be the best of both worlds.
Maybe the series will end with her seeing kind of like a bossy, self-centered young mermaid telling people what to do. And she goes, I'm going to take you under my wing. I'm going to mentor you.
I believe you mean under my fin.
And that's been your
Final thought. Outro goes here. Thanks for listening, everyone. And don't forget to tropical shine.
Pretty cute.
Ha-ha! What a great episode of King of the What Now, your One Piece podcast that started from the very beginning and stars these two doofuses. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter is the best place to do that. I am at KOTWN_pod.
And I am at Pirate Ghost Host.
Absolutely, yes. We share all sorts of thoughts on there, some related to the podcast, some related to other things. But you can also reach us through email at KingOfTheWhatPod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Patreon. We would love some subscribers or supporters, whatever the technical term is. Patrons. So fancy and grown up. And you can find that at patreon.com/KingOfTheWhatPod. You can find all sorts of things like bonus episodes, and you get to see the full cold open candidates, not just the ones that make it into the episode. Maybe someday if I learn to draw, I'll put stuff up there. We're always looking for suggestions and feedback. And speaking of which,
please take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you get us from. So iTunes, Spotify, Scrivener, that's for writing. But wherever you listen to our podcast, take a moment to leave a review. It helps other people find us. We are so grateful to all of our listeners, and we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is super powerful, so if you have a friend who likes One Piece and they haven't heard of us, just direct them to the latest episode. And if they hate us, they can tell us why. And if there's an actionable item, we'll try to please you. That's how this works. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.